Welcome to ESPN SOCCERNET Press Pass. We are back on the trail of what's happening in both Spain and Italy as the leagues there resumed this weekend. In England, the FA Cup took centre stage, and alongside me to discuss, Robbie Mustoe, Janusz Mihalik and Gabriel Marcotti. Let's talk about the Manchester derby, of course. So many still wondering whether or not referee Chris Foy got it right about the Vincent Kompany send-off. What was your reaction to that, Robbie?
I thought he got it wrong. I thought this was a fair challenge. I think it's a central defender that wants to win the ball. I actually think he made an effort to keep that right foot low to the ground, very close to the ground. I know the left foot was maybe slightly off the ground, but I just think it was a good challenge. I don't want to see good, strong sliding tackles coming out of the game. He's almost side foot the way that his foot won that ball. That's why, for me, it doesn't go down as a dangerous challenge.
Yes, well, of course, there are differing views to this. Manchester United boss Sir Alex Ferguson, he's going the other way. He is absolutely certain here that Kompany had to go. This is what he said. It was a sending off, no question. It was a two-footed tackle. I have seen him, as in Kompany, do it before. He has got off with it in the past, but if Nani gets caught there, he has a problem. It was a real bad one. Janusz, your thoughts on what's happened here?
Why are we afraid to say that this was a good tackle? Because I think that's what it is. Are we saying that good tackles are not allowed now because they may be dangerous? As for Nani, Robbie, you and I have been here. He's not going for that tackle. He's smart to jump out of there because Nani is trying to nip that ball. If anything, you see Kompany, a big guy coming at you, you better jump. You got to, your 50s, what you're going to win, what you're going to lose, and I think that's what happens. And yes, you can see why Foy maybe felt that this was.
Well, why is that? Let's discuss that. I mean, because the left foot was clearly off the ground. Was there actually a need to lunge that way as Kompany did? And then the referee interprets it and says, OK, that is worthy of a red card. Is it serious foul play, as stated in the laws of the game?
I don't think it was.
Well, did it endanger the health of Nani, possibly?
No, you're absolutely right. It's got to be violent conduct or serious foul play. I don't think it was. I think he certainly lunged in, but it's well-timed, it's clean on the ball. If it's
Look at his left leg.
But his left leg wasn't really near the challenge at the end of it.
The momentum is always going to take you there. If I look at Spearing's red card, you can see there was a player that was pumped. His first match, Lucas suspended. Here's his chance. It was still a clean tackle, but maybe a little bit over the top because he was up for it. I think nothing here. This is an experienced player in Kompany who knows that Nani never wins a tackle with him right there, commits himself thinking that he's going to win it. And, this is where a referee, makes his worth, if you will, in the game because, did he have to make that decision immediately? Did Wayne Rooney have to go to him? Did he have to be surrounded by 4 players immediately, or did he have time to maybe listen to his assistant referee? Because it's a massive game, and I'm not just saying this massive game, any game. That's a big decision, and you have to be sure that you're absolutely right that there was an intent, and I didn't see it. He had the right, but we also have the right to say that we didn't see it. Well, I think it was clean.
In defence of Chris Foy, it's early in the game, Gab, so he's come in and he's made a very, very direct assessment here. He was absolutely in no doubt. So he must have thought it was bad enough. What was your reading?
Well, he evidently did think it warranted a red card. I mean, the directives in the Premier League, make a distinction between dangerous and reckless tackles, and this was deemed to be a dangerous tackle. And I'm never going to go and criticize a referee for sending off somebody early as opposed to late. I think you need to apply the rules as you see them, whatever moment the event happens in the game. That said, though, I think if he watches the replay, he's going to sit there and think, "My goodness, boy, did I get this one wrong?" Because I think he clearly did get it wrong.
Well, what have our viewers been saying? They've been communicating with us via Twitter. We have some of the reaction here. This needs to stop, says one viewer. Another unfair sending off ruins a great game. Kompany clearly won the ball. And then there's this. Manchester United get the big decisions all the time, claims one viewer. If Kompany gets sent off for that, so how lucky was Frank Lampard, for example, against Wolverhampton? And, of course, Chris Foy, he's not been out of the headlines for long. You just have to look back to Queen's Park Rangers against Chelsea. You think of Stoke against Tottenham. So there is a bit of a pattern here, Robbie. I mean, at what point do you say, excuse me, Mr. Foy, you are not equipped to referee a match in the Premier League or in the FA Cup?
Well, I think that has to come over a period of time, maybe a series of mistakes, but there has been a few mistakes. There has been controversy when he's refereed games. So my question immediately would be, why was he doing this game? You know, surely there are referees that have had better seasons, that the people making the decisions have liked what they've done more than this guy. Everybody knows at this particular round, the third round, this was always going to be a massive game. You needed arguably your best referee on it. Why Chris Foy?
Well, maybe he is the best because he steps in and he deals with the situation such as that, and he's not afraid to do so. I mean, is that not possible as well?
Look, it doesn't matter if it's Foy. These things are going to happen, of course. We know it to everybody, good or bad. But it baffles me why that decision has to be made so quickly. I mean, there are many that are calling for video replay, which will take time. I mean, why not take 15, 20 seconds, cool off, speak with the assistant referees. Now you can talk to him without even going over, and maybe then make that decision. But sometimes that, right away, you can see it here. And, and by the way, I don't think it's right, what Rooney did. Let's not forget Mancini did that against Liverpool and apologize. But players will always do that. It's in our blood. We'll question things. It happens right away. It's a habit that's going to take a long time to break. So I'm not necessarily being hung up by what Rooney did, right or wrong. But just take your time, make a decision, because it's a massive one.
You're talking about one thing here, common sense, which doesn't always prevail. So the question becomes, Gab, is there anything that can be done in the laws of the game, perhaps, to help make this black and white?
Well, I don't know what you can do with the laws of the game. You have to accept the fact that referees will make mistakes. However, better referees will make fewer mistakes. I think it's as simple as that. And what really, really bugs me is the absolute lack of transparency with the Premier League and referees. Referees get assessed at every game. They have an actual ranking of referees somewhere deep in the Premier League offices where they say, like, these are our best guys, these are our next best guys, these guys are having a difficult time. That is all kept top secret. They don't share that with anybody. They don't come out and explain afterwards who had a good game, who had a bad game. The referees can't talk. They can't apologize, or very rarely do they do that if they make a mistake. It's seen as showing weakness. I appreciate these guys are human beings trying to do a job, but they're also professionals. And as they are professionals, I wish we could have a system where we could reward the ones who do well, who make fewer mistakes, and also with the ones who make more mistakes, not punish them, but hey, give somebody else a chance.
Let's put Foy's performance to the side now and talk about the match itself. When it was 11 versus 11, Manchester United went in front early, and it was a fabulous goal from Wayne Rooney. And he also kissed the badge on his shirt. What kind of a statement was that for you, Robbie, given all of the stuff going on between he and Ferguson in recent days?
Well, he went straight for his badge, didn't he? So maybe it's just an indication that he is absolutely committed to this football club and his manager. But I tell you what a great goal it is. I mean, this opening minutes were dominated by Man City. They controlled possession, they controlled territory. United, first attack, Rooney gets involved, puts it wide, gets himself in the box. The ball is a brilliant one for Valencia, and what a good header. I mean, he can try that in training, all morning maybe, with crossing and shooting as you do as attacking players. But the fact that everything of that was perfect, the ball out, the first time cross from Valencia, and the header in off the bar, it was a beautiful header.
What about for you, Gab, when you look at the reaction to that goal from Rooney, given all that's transpired in recent days in the press and his relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson?
It's a difficult one because, we all know about the story that came out in the Independent newspaper over here on Saturday, which bizarrely it sort of came out on Twitter before the paper actually went to press, and there was a blanket denial from Rooney, from the club, from Rooney's agent, from Rooney's PR firm, rubbishing the story. I just wonder, though, once they've all done that, once they're all in agreement that the story is rubbish, is it necessary to go and actually kiss the badge, or was this some kind of simply a spontaneous celebration from Rooney? I don't know. I mean, I don't think Robbie Mustoe did too much badge kissing, but then again, that was a slightly different era.
No, he does a kissing of a different kind because he likes to be on my good side.
I never kiss you, mate.
Well, okay. Here we go again on the kissing. I think we've been down this road before. What about for you, Janusz? Manchester United didn't stop there. against 10, they pushed on and were running away with this. What did you think?
I'll tell you what, the pressure was immense. So just think about before this match, everyone's thinking that Manchester City are the champions. There's a new king in town, and 6-1, of course, at Old Trafford, and everything's slipping away. And they needed an answer, and they got it. Regardless of what happened to Company. I mean, you look at the goals from Rooney, and you look at the goals from Welbeck, world class, and really on top of the game. And City were worried. Yes, we can talk about the second half and what City has done, and they need to get credit, but I don't think we can take the credit away from Manchester United, because it's not an easy task to play under that sort of pressure and get the points, and they did that. Let's not forget, Manchester City are the holders of this, and in the next round we're going to see Manchester United against Liverpool. City won't be there regardless what we think.
There were some questions we were hoping to see answered in this match for Manchester City in some respects. Of course, Touré's gone away, Kolo Touré as well, and how they cope without them is one area. But the way they came back in the second half with the 10 men, for Roberto Mancini, he says it himself, he's very pleased because it showed a certain aspect of this team.
Yeah, and I think he did a good job as well. I think his tactical switch at half-time was a very clever one, very good one, allowed him to play with 2 players up front, still got his 4 across midfield with 3 at the back. And yes, there was a good reaction. I think you'd expect that. This is a huge game. They're the holders. I expect them to come back into it and show some fight. I think to answer your question at the start of that, it's disappointing because in trying to assess these 2 teams right now, I'm afraid it's inconclusive because of what happened in the game. We will never know what would have happened with 11 v 11. I was fascinated to see it unfold, and that's why the decision was such a disappointment. We all get that. But I think credit for City in the second half, though I think you have to say that United took the foot off the gas in the second half, maybe thinking the game was easy all over, maybe they could rack up the goals. That just didn't happen.
Gab, what did you make of the second half performance of Manchester City?
Well, it was interesting because at halftime, I was sort of thinking to myself, okay, if you're Mancini, the sensible thing to do now is to just say, right, who cares about the FA Cup? We're going to win the league. We're going to have a shot at the Europa League. We've got the League Cup semi-final coming up. Let's just go, make sure nobody gets hurt, put on some scrubs and let United have this one. I would have thought really that, the idea was, hey, let's go and let's live to fight another day. Instead, he went for it, and they came close. And I think it's one of those bizarre games where both City and United can take a lot of positives out of it, just simply because of the way that the game ended up.
Yannick, your thoughts on Man City?
Look, unbelievable, because, before the match, I've heard a lot about Manchester United, how many players were injured. I think that was just a hedge in case they don't get the points here, because I'm looking at this squad. It is as close as it comes to their starting 11. Take Vidic away. Yeah, you can maybe talk about Young, but everybody's back. But most importantly, I looked at the benches, and actually United were much stronger. In the second half, I look at the bench of City, and there's virtually nobody there. Nobody that can come in and make a huge difference when you need goals. So I think that's why Mancini's got to get unbelievable credit, because when I saw Silva and Johnson coming off, I have to be honest, I said, impossible. You're 3-0 down. How is it going to happen? Not only 3 in the back, you see the wing-backs did an unbelievable job in Zabayeta and Kolarov. Kolarov, perhaps the best game for Manchester City that I can remember. And Nasri, who's been underperforming alongside Aguero, another a player that's had a great game, did the job. But just look at that bench. There really aren't the names when you look at United, and Chicharito on the bench, and even Paul Scholes, who by the way didn't do a bad job, and he's probably the only one that they can actually kiss a badge on that team at this moment.
Mancini drew some conclusions from this. He believes the character showed today means that they'll probably go on and win the league. We will have to wait and see. For Manchester United, well, they've gone back to the future, can we say? Paul Scholes is back in the fold at 37, coming out of retirement. I wonder if Middlesbrough's on the phone looking for Robbie Mustoe. What do you think of this?
What do I think of it? I think, and after giving a long thought to it, I think it's very smart. I think I was like everybody else. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing when Paul Scholes was on the sideline about to come into the game. Retired, finished, great career, one of the best I ever played against in terms of midfield players. But when you think about it, Andrew, he's been still there. He's been involved with the reserve team. He's been training with the lads. And I bet over this situation with all the injuries, they're probably looking at training thinking, you know what, Scholes is still the best player in training.
That's quite sad, actually.
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you what, he's still, it wasn't though his body, when I finished playing, I was done. I needed an operation on my hip, my lower back was in bits. I knew I'd finished.
You were done earlier than that.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably. But I think with Scholes, I mean, it wasn't that, was it? I think it was about the fact that he wasn't playing every week. I want to be the main man here. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be that. I'm going to retire now. But what a good decision. I think it's smart. I think particularly with the situation with the injured players, cleverly, absolutely good decision, and I think he's going to do well.
Unbelievable. Just goes to show how great of a professional he is to keep himself in shape right there. I mean, just incredible. I mean, we use the term legend loosely, but regardless how it panned out, you know, either Sir Alex Ferguson asked him or he came in. Obviously, you get a bump like you would not believe. He's free. He can play in any competition possible. What's there to lose?
I just think the situation allows it. The situation allows it.
What do you mean? He's a legend, yeah, but like, what does it say? A club like Manchester United, desperate like this, to turn back to a great... There's no doubting he was a superb player. But has it got to this?
Yeah, but it's because of the situation, because of the fact that Fletcher's ill.
I don't care about the situation.
And other players are injured.
I don't care about the situation. You've got Phil Jones, you've got new kids you're grooming.
No transfer fee, knows the place, still in good shape.
I think you got a good point, but we still don't know, you know, what's going to happen in January. But you get a player, an extra player that everybody respects, that has history with the club, and as we saw, still did a pretty decent job while coming in.
Gab, what would you like to say about the return of Paul Scholes?
Well, I mean, first of all, I share the lad's enthusiasm, but you know, to go out and say, oh, look, he's in such great shape, we don't know. The guy went out there and, you know, he played in the second half and probably was responsible, actually, for one of the City goals. So before we go and praise his tremendous fitness, let's give him a couple games. Beyond that, I think the big plus with Scholes is obviously, as Yanni says, he knows the place inside and out, and he's not going to cause a problem if he doesn't play. You know, it gives Sir Alex tremendous flexibility. You know, he didn't go out and bring in a big star. He got somebody, presumably playing for very, very little money, who's still, in terms of ability, you know, just about as good as all but a couple players in the United squad. He's a guy he can slot into certain situations. If he can play, it's a bonus. If it turns out that, you know, he did the right thing when he retired because he's not good enough anymore, then it won't be a problem. He'll just go back to training the reserves or, you know, or whatever it was he was doing at Old Trafford. So I think in that way, it was a very clever move by Sir Alex. But I think we need to give it a little while longer, though, before we can judge whether Paul Scholes can actually contribute on the pitch.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Scholes now joining the squad. That's another weapon for Manchester United, another body at least, Gab. So we start to look at the title race. And we heard Mancini talking about, you know, the character shown in the second half, and now that they'll probably go on and win the league. What do you think when you hear him say that?
Well, this is an old chest. I remember Mourinho used to do this. You know, he'd be top of the league, he'd lose a game, and he'd come out and be like, oh, now I know we will definitely win the league. And sure enough, then he goes on and wins the league. I think Mancini's right. I think his players showed a tremendous amount of character, tremendous amount of fortitude. You know, you lose your captain after, you know, after 20 odd minutes, and you're a goal down. You know, a lot of people would have just packed it in, as I said, as I thought City might do. Instead, I think it was a tremendous show of unity. I think that there's a lot of cohesion to this team, a lot of self-belief, and, you know, as for the ability, we knew that was there all along.
Do you buy into this, Robbie, about, you know, drawing a line, conclusive evidence that you win the league based on the character showed here? I'm sure it helps. And meanwhile, you've got the other side of the argument, Ferguson's team not killing off a side with 10 men.
There's a whole different way you can look at this, you know, and I don't believe that the title is there for City to lose, as I've heard a few times now. It's still very close. And look at it from United's point of view. Well back in form, looking happy playing with Rooney, who looks like he's ready to go again. You've got Valencia, who makes a big difference when he plays wide right, gets behind fullbacks and gets good balls in the box all the time. Nani on the other side. You've now got Scholes into the mix. Whatever he contributes from now to the end of the season, he's there as an option. You know, defenders, you'd hope would be coming back to fitness. So they're going to be absolutely in this title race. It's not City's to lose. It's going to be tight. You know, Sir Alex Ferguson, with all that he knows and all that this squad knows, are going to fight all the way. And I just think there's signs at United as well that they're going to find their feet. And they, for me, are going to go on a big run now.
United are on course for perhaps a domestic double. Hey, so they march on into the fourth round where they face, guess what? Another great rival in Liverpool, Janusz. And of course, we know the bad blood going back to the Luis Suarez and Patrice Evra incident. I wonder how this is going to play out?
Well, yeah, you wonder. I hope we can just get on about playing football. Of course, they've met last season in this competition. You look at Liverpool now is going to be facing Manchester City in the Carling Cup. So, you know, this is part of this Premier League title race because there's so many big matches. And I think everybody welcomes that. I think I, as a neutral, in some way, I suppose, I have a soft spot for one of the teams, as you all know. But I think it's going to be a tremendous match once again. And I think some fringe players are going to get an opportunity. But this is the FA Cup. We saw today what it meant to a lot of players that didn't necessarily grow up, you know, in this country and how they came back, especially for City. I think this is going to be tremendous. And Liverpool awaken at least, you know, 5 goals and the right people scoring against Oldham.
I just want to be clear, it is Liverpool, right, that you love? Or are you jumping on the Manchester United bandwagon now this week?
It changes from show to show.
Apparently so. We're taking a break now. You can log on to soccernet.com for all the latest. When we return, we'll be discussing the latest from Spain and a blow for Barcelona. It could turn out to be a decisive weekend in Spain as league action resumed there. Barcelona dropping points away to their city rivals, Espanyol, and they are now 5 adrift of the leaders, Real Madrid. Gab, Barcelona dropping far too many points this season. For you, when you saw this derby, what did you take away from it?
Well, you know, much as I don't like to criticize Pep Guardiola, I think when he looks back on this, I think he's going to maybe bear a little bit of responsibility here because, you know, he fielded a very strong lineup. I think it's the first time all season that it's an unchanged lineup. They went out there, they got the early goal, and then they tried to put the game to sleep, which is something that we've seen them do so many times and so effectively in the past. However, I don't know that, you know, a derby against Espanyol away from home is the right game in which to sort of go and then try to manage the match when you only have a 1-goal lead. And I think ultimately they paid a price for that. Perhaps Espanyol's goal was against the run of play a little bit. And then they kind of woke up at the end and, you know, created those chances and, you know, might have had a penalty or whatever else. But, you know, I think in some ways this is, and I can only assume it was the instruction from the bench to play that way. I kind of think that was something that was basically mishandled. Yes, Messi had a poor game by his standards, and yes, you have to give credit to Espanyol, but, you know, from Barcelona, I think you expect more.
I'm happy today, Janusz, I have to say, because it's nice to see a team pushing Barcelona. It's not the first time this season, of course, but a derby held in the proper fashion rather than just another blowout. What did you learn? Well, because this is not the first time, is it? Away from home, they've had problems
But
elsewhere.
I'm not surprised. It's Espanyol. I mean, Espanyol has taken more points out of Barcelona in the last 5 La Liga seasons than any other team, even Real Madrid. So we shouldn't be surprised. And, you know, to play against Barcelona, you're going to have to suffer on both sides of the ball. And the teams that are willing to suffer, you know, not just defensively. We've seen teams park the bus. But look, opening whistle, high pressure from Espanyol. Verdu, 9th minute, a header, wonderful save from Valdez. Espanyol asked many questions, and I just think that Espanyol really earned it. You can always say that Messi didn't play well, and, you know, I didn't think Xavi was special. They had their chances, but I don't remember last time a team had as many chances as Espanyol did, and I think this was a typical game. You mentioned some of them.
Let me just point out, because history is one thing, okay? Espanyol may have done it before, but the fact of the matter is, this season away, Sociedad, Valencia, Bilbao have all taken points from Barcelona. They've lost their Getafe and they drew at home with Sevilla. This is not the Barcelona that's won 3 consecutive league titles.
Yeah, and I think what I take from that is this. I think the teams that are prepared to roll their sleeves up, particularly away from home, the likes of Sociedad and Bilbao, that we know are going to work the socks off. It seems to me that Barcelona are having more trouble with those teams than Real Madrid are. I agree with Gab. I think there's an element to their play at times I don't know whether it's cocky or it's overconfident. We're ahead now. We can manage through possession. Well, I think we can see that they always give up at least 1 good chance in a game. And when they're not passing the ball very well, which they didn't in this game, then they're going to give up more chances because that's the way that teams score against Barca, by breaking up the play and counter-attacking on them very quickly. So you know, that's, I think, where they've dropped. They've drawn 5 games. Real Madrid have drawn just 1. So I think it's just that ruthless streak that isn't there this season. When certain games, once we go ahead, let's really go for the juggler and score more goals.
Guardiola didn't really want to get into a discussion about whether or not his side should have been awarded a penalty in the dying moments, Janusz, to try and win the game. Raul Rodriguez Of course, the claim is that he handballed the shot from Pedro. What did you think of that incident right at the end?
I think he did. It's always harsh because there's no time to react to any of that. You know, if I had it my way, there'd be no penalties from handballs because they're never intentional, in my opinion, unless you're Suarez. But you know, I'm happy that Pep Guardiola doesn't do that. That's refreshing. Doesn't put pressure. I've never heard him say that we lost the game because this or that wasn't given, unlike other leagues that we've discussed already, because that's even additional pressure on the referee. And you know, you have to be humble. You know, they've won a lot. They're going to win a lot more trophies, and in the process, you're going to get a decision that goes for or against you. But Espanyol has played a very good game, and you are right with Gab on this. But I just think that Espanyol today played differently than any other teams that I've seen this year that you know, forced them to drop points.
Espanyol, most certainly, Gab, were good value for this draw. But did you feel that Barcelona perhaps were robbed a clear penalty there at the end?
I don't want to say robbed because I think, as you said, over the balance of the 90 minutes, I think a draw is probably a fair result, but no question about it. I mean, it's a shot on goal. The ball would have gone in if it doesn't go to his hand. His hands away, his arms away from his body. You know, I think Barcelona could have felt. You know, it's the kind of game you could turn around and say, "Oh, look, we didn't play very well. They played exceptionally well." But we still could have had all 3 points in normal circumstances. I mean, maybe that's the only saving grace. Barcelona are a very good team, but we already knew that.
Yes, they are, but they're not able to match the stunning pace of Real Madrid right now. Gab, who managed to put 5 past Granada. So why are Real Madrid so more effective at doing what Barcelona seems to struggle to do this season?
Well, I mean, they have been more effective this season. I mean, Real Madrid are a tremendous team as well. I think it's pretty obvious. But what I like about what Mourinho's doing with Real Madrid is, you know, it's mid-season and he's also experimenting. You know, he could just stick with the script which got them this far. I love the fact that he's tried to find a way for Benzema and Higuain to play together. Benzema out on the wing, you know, that sort of front to goal physical striker, because he's obviously not a winger, breaking in from the right flank is very, you know, is proving to be very effective. I wonder what happens when Di Maria comes back. I wonder if it's a way to, you know, maybe put some pressure on Özil, who maybe this season certainly hasn't been playing too well. Although against Granada, arguably Özil was man of the match. You know, you put those things together. He's sort of, you know, tugging here, pushing there. He's tinkering a little bit, but I think it's also a way to keep many of his players motivated and slightly outside their comfort zones.
Yes, Robbie, you look at Real Madrid in the absence of Angel Di Maria, who's been winning plenty of praise for his performances this season. They were still able to get it done, and we saw this combination of Gonzalo Higuain and Karim Benzema as well, and that doesn't always happen. Is this the birth, perhaps, of something to use going forward?
I don't know. I think, you know, it's not as though they played as a pair. We're very clear, and Gab's
No, but
right.
being in the same team is a start.
Yeah, it
and I'm saying, is that working well?
Do you trust Benzema to be on that right-hand side in the tougher games where defensively he might have to do something?
Hey, why are you asking me the question? You're the expert.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what my question is. You know, I think in some games, Granada at home, I think he can afford to have an experiment. He can afford to play Benzema on that right-hand side, and Higuain, and Özil. And Özil was really back to his best. Tremendous assisting passes from that position. But I don't know whether long-term you're going to see Benzema playing on that right-hand side position, particularly when Di Maria was playing so well. Ronaldo one side, Di Maria the other side. I mean, that's tough to drop.
Look at him. He's chomping at the bit to say something. He doesn't agree with you.
I commentated on the match, and Benzema played out wide. He can, but simply because Di Maria wasn't there. I think what Gab is saying, I'm assuming that maybe Benzema could play in the hole behind Higuain sometimes, but I think if Di Maria comes back, he plays. Also, yes, set up a couple of goals. First, he didn't know anything about because Ronaldo flicked it to him, but behind him, just a simple touch. A great ball to Benzema on the second one. But let's not forget, this was 5-1. It was very, very close. Granada were good for the money. They really were.
Did you say a 5-1 that was close?
Very, very close. Second goal, I'm surprised that nobody's talking about, because we've talked about possible interference on Higuain on the second one when Sergio Ramos scored the goal.
But surely you can't say that it was close.
But this is the difference. Well, have you watched the game?
Yeah, so I've watched the game,
okay,
but you can't say it's close. They were back to 1-1, but Madrid
and here's the difference.
steamrolled them.
Why are they doing it? That was the question, because I think they are a lot more direct than Barcelona. Barcelona still likes the tiki-taka sometimes when there's no need for it, because perhaps they feel that the time will always come where they break down the team, and they don't. And I think Real Madrid are direct. They go for it. They finish it quickly, and they've been much better in dealing with the smaller teams, if you will. And I hesitate to call them that. But obviously, when they win matches, it's very often 4 or 5, and Barcelona often struggled.
There's an issue we keep hearing about in relation to Real Madrid, Gab, but Cristiano Ronaldo, the crowd at the Bernabeu, apparently getting on his back. He's been taking some stick ever since his performance against Barcelona. What is all this about? And now they're questioning how Ronaldo celebrated the goal against Granada, whether or not he's sulking.
Well, it's interesting because this got a lot of play in the Madrid press, and anybody who follows Marca and AS, the two big newspapers that follow Real Madrid very closely, knows that right now, usually they're on message with the club, and I'm wondering if this little dig at Ronaldo that they had, largely based on the fact that he took 10 shots on goal in the game, only one of them was on target, and that was his effort at the end, and afterwards he didn't celebrate. There's notion that he's somehow a little bit selfish, and he's pouting because he didn't, he only added 1 to his goal total, whatever else, which seems extremely petty to me. I don't know that they would have gone with this story had they not perhaps had the blessing from somebody inside the club, maybe even Mourinho himself. Maybe it's a way to, maybe light a fire under Ronaldo a little bit. I'm not sure. Normally they like to stay on message, especially when Real Madrid is doing well. So I think this is one of those watch this space type of situations.
Janusz, for you though, the title race now. 5 points the difference, Real Madrid. Is this it? They just go on with it from here?
It's in their hands, by the way. Maybe Ronaldo's got to score 150 goals for them in a season, so they won't complain about that. Look, it's not in their hands anymore. I mean, everything they've done beating Real Madrid away from home, that was important to bring in within the 3 points right now. I think they almost are going to have to be squeaky clean, really, because you can't see that many games that Real Madrid is going to drop, and how many chances to get back in the race is Barcelona going to get. So I think it's not over, but for the first time, I will say it, that it's clearly in Real Madrid's hands, in my opinion.
It's much tighter in Italy's Serie A. We'll be discussing that next, so hang around as the top 3 of AC Milan, Juventus and Udinese all managed the wins this weekend. This is Press Pass. In Italy, it's all square at the top between AC Milan and Juventus after 17 rounds, and the league resuming this weekend. Udinese just 2 points adrift. AC Milan took the points in Bergamo against Atalanta. Robbie and Ibrahimovic and Boateng got the goals there. What do you think of the Rossoneri now as we head into the second half of the campaign, almost?
I like them. I think Allegri's brought them forward no end. This was a difficult away game. Atalanta have not lost in the league. They've drawn 4, they've won 4 at home. So it's a tough team to come back when you've had your break. Scrappy game for long periods. But I just like the way that Milan now, when I watch Milan play now, I'm pretty confident they're going to get the job done. And that's something I think 2 years ago you couldn't say about them. They were very flaky in midfield. Sometimes a lot of space in there. They allow teams to run through there. Now with the players that they've got, Nocerino's coming into the side. Van Bommel's always that insurance. Kevin Prince Boateng brings that energy as well. Pato played up front with Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I just see the team now can grind. It can scrap. It can fight. It can win games without playing well. That's a big difference. And I'll tell you, it's a big difference as well. Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Well, I was going to say, is he having a better season than last or not?
I think so. He's playing great.
Janusz?
He's getting better and better. And, scrapping, this is the most important word that you've used, because I don't necessarily think that a lot of the players had a great game, and in the past they would have lost these games or dropped points, and they haven't. I've often called for Boateng to play in the midfield, and he did play in the midfield today, and I don't think he was great at it, but still contributed. What a great goal that was, and I think ultimately when everybody's healthy and the right lineup is out there, I think he's going to be great in there. You'd have to question Emmanuelson as a trequartista in that hole. I don't think he had a good game. You would have thought Robinho was much better, but Allegri is trying these things while absolutely needing to get points, and they're getting those points. So I think it was a massive, massive win, and not to mention the fact that everybody else that mattered won as well.
Yeah, so it was an impressive weekend for many of the top sides. Apart from Lazio, Gab, you look at the fact that most of the big teams won. What did you think of AC Milan in particular?
Well, as Robbie said, I mean, Atalanta are a physical side. They're tough at home, and you know, Allegri was a bit concerned because he had to play Boateng in midfield. He likes him more as a spoiler further up the pitch, playing in the hole. But he did the job, and you take the positives from the game. Pato up front, I thought did okay. You know, he won the penalty. He hit the post. Doesn't really show too many signs of chemistry, rather, with Ibrahimovic, and so that's why there's going to be question marks over him and over his future. Mexes at the back, I thought played certainly his best game in a Milan shirt. Not that he's had too many. I think that's important to take pressure off Nesta during the stretch run. So it does look as if everything's coming together.
And there might be a reinforcement arriving in the form of Carlos Tevez. Gab, of course, we're hearing that personal terms are agreed, but how close are the two parties, and I'm talking about AC Milan and Manchester City, on getting the deal done?
Well, I mean, as you know, last Thursday they all had a meeting in Ipanema in Rio de Janeiro. Just why, I don't know, because they all had to sort of fly to get there. Galliani flying from Milan, Kia Giraffe.
It makes perfect sense to me, Gab. It makes absolute sense to me to go all the way to Ipanema to strike a deal. Wouldn't you do the same thing? I would.
No question about it. Carlos Tevez booking a private plane from Buenos Aires. I wonder if you're picking up the tab for all these negotiations. But no, they over lunch with the cameras there, they formulated this deal, which they put to Manchester City. They even had a conference call with City while they were there. But my understanding is City right now aren't biting. They're not impressed. Milan asked for an answer by Tuesday. From what I hear, the answer will be no, which just means that they got to go back and try harder. In the meantime, of course, Inter have supposedly also stepped in. Marco Branca flying to England last week, talking directly to City. There's talk of 25 million euros on the plate. Personally, I believe that when I see it. I'm not sure Inter necessarily need another striker right now. It could just be a case of spoilage on their part. As I've been saying all along, I think this one's going to rumble on, and I think won't be resolved until the very last minute of the very last day of this transfer window.
I just want to touch on a couple games quickly, Gab. Juventus winning away to Lecce. What did you see in that one?
Again, big personality from Juventus. Took the early lead against the Lecce team that really, I thought, fought very, very hard. Bad news, Quagliarella getting himself injured. Matri, though, came on and scored the winner. So big 3 points for Antonio Conte.
Yes, and a big 3 points for Udinese, 2 points off the lead behind Juventus and AC Milan. Gab and Janusz, I should say, and they thrashed Cesena, and Antonio Di Natale just keeps scoring.
It's just incredible. We've said for Udinese to stay up there, he's going to have to be important. How much more important can you be when you score a goal? And of course, he does that all the time. But in the first minute, to set up a game for them, you know, from then it seemed easy. He scored another one, and just continues to impress. I mean, does the job. That's what you would ask from strikers. You know, he's getting rewarded. He's going to be playing for Prandelli in Italy as well. And of course, he's 34. It's a short term, probably not long term, but he's been important. But let's not forget, it's not just Di Natale. Isla has had a good game, and Udinese continues to impress after, you know, year in and year out losing key players or selling them.
Yes, and there were also some big wins for Inter, Roma and Napoli. We'll be touching on those teams when we return, so sit tight. There's more to come on the opening weekend in Serie A for 2012, and it's certainly tight. Could Inter be a team to fear after this performance, a 5-0 win over Parma, Robbie?
They should be a team to be feared. Yeah, I think they look a lot happier. I think Ranieri, to no surprise, has got them playing, you know, very simple football. It's a basic 4-4-2, players playing where they want to play. Nagatomo, left back, Maicon, right back, Pazzini, Milito up front. I think one special mention for me should go to Ricky Alvarez. Argentines come into this football club, played on the left-hand side, had a license to kind of move around a little bit in this fairly set system. But I tell you, for me, it just slapped of players being happy, Milito looking sharp again. And they just look well organised, and this is what Ranieri does. He just brings it back to basics, and they just played very well.
Well, how seriously do you take him, Janis? They're 6 points behind third, of course, which means Champions League qualification, and 8 points off the summit right now after this poor start they had.
Very seriously. I think Gab and I talked about it on Thursday. We, at least third and maybe even for the title. And being happy, I get you. I think that's important. But most importantly, they're getting healthy. I mean, you have Lucia and Samuel in the center of defense. That hasn't happened for a long time. Mike Cohn is playing, getting match fit right now. That's also important. Ricky Arvelas, as you said, I think he was actually playing in the hole a little bit, which we often see him left and right. He had the, license to roam. So I think that's important. And of course, when you have Pazzini and Milito, the right people scoring, and let's not forget, Milito and Pazzini haven't been scoring as of late. When it all comes together, you can see that there's quality. I think we always knew there was quality, that just the quality wasn't on the pitch.
Fair enough. They're stringing together wins, Gab, but they certainly looked formidable, the manner in which they disposed of Parma. So at what point do we perhaps declare Inter back in the title picture?
Well, I mean, the derby's coming up, and obviously that's gonna tell us a lot about where they are. Don't forget also Wesley Sneijder. He's going to come back in, and if he can slot right in, it'll be a tremendous boost. Personally, I don't expect Milito to play the way he did against Parma all season long, but then again, maybe Ranieri can coax something out of the likes of Forlan or Zarate. They have options. But I think one guy who came on and I think could play a big part between now and the end of the season is Pauli, a young player who really hasn't had much of a chance at all at Inter this season, largely through injury. But if they can get him productive in the midfield, take some pressure, take some game minutes away from people like Cambiaso and Thiago Motta as the season wears on, then he can also add some depth. I still think Inter are in this.
We're all over the Milan derby on Press Pass, so stay with us throughout the week. We'll be counting down to the big clash. I wanted to move on to Napoli, who put out a near full-strength side. Ezekiel Lavezzi was injured for this one, and Goran Pandev took his place, and it was the front three, Robbie, who decided this match for them away to Palermo. When you look at Goran Pandev and also Edison Cavani getting among the goals too, with Marek Hamsik.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same people, isn't it? Normally Lavezzi plays up front, he's injured right now, so Pandev came in, played very well, took his goal excellently. But the difference with Napoli in this game and in so many other games is the front players.
Chelsea beware in the round of 16
Absolutely,
of the Champions League.
Chelsea beware, because I think it's an ideal matchup for Napoli. Chelsea are going to want to possess the ball, they want to build it from the back, very patient, very steady through midfield. Napoli are absolutely set up to win the ball back. Those front three players, by the way, don't come back that much. They're ready to pounce at any time there's a turnover in midfield. They're going to be a real danger. In fact, I would put them as slight favourites to go through.
We saw, of course, a legendary name of Italian football, Francesco Totti, back amongst the goals for Roma today. Gab, that 2-0 win, both of them from the penalty spot for Totti, and he revealed a message, scusate il ritardo, or apologies for the delay. It's his first goal since May.
Yeah, that's right. Normal service has resumed. I think Totti is the message Totti wants to get out. I think it's important that he scored. Of course, Roma, now you're going to be without Osvaldo for a couple months. They need somebody to bang in the goals, and obviously Totti historically has done that. The other interesting twist from this game, though, Daniele De Rossi coming out after the match. His contract, of course, winding down in June. He's had negotiations. He came out and he said, I'm very, very clear in my mind what my next step is going to be, but I'm also equally clear in the fact that I won't tell you. So plenty of suspense now. Will he extend his deal with Roma, or will he put himself out on the market? And I think right now, given his age, given his profile, given his quality, given that he's going to be on a Bosman, Daniele De Rossi can pretty much write his own ticket if he wants to leave.
Speaking of winding down, we are into the home stretch after this final break. A reminder to join us for the next edition of Press Pass. Robbie Earle and Shaka Hislop will be with you. And don't forget, for those watching in the UK, to join us 11:30 p.m. weeknights. I hope you're following us on Twitter. If not, you should, because it's lots of fun at ESPN Press Pass. All the panels there, including one Tommy Smith, keeping good on his promise to join in the new year. Okay, in the time we have remaining, let's discuss some movement in the Premier League. QPR have sacked Neil Warnock. Gentlemen, Robbie, a good move?
We'll see. I mean, I think initially quite shocked that it was seemed quite sudden, but when you look at what's happened there, they've lost 5 of the last 6 in the Premier League. I think there's new ownership there, so, you know, at the beginning of the transfer window, the probably theory is, okay, we're not really sure about this guy. Yes, he's done great to get us there, but do we really want to go forward with this manager? There's a chance now to bring a new guy in, there's some good names that are available, and give him some money in the window as well.
Yes, Mark Hughes seems to be the favourite right now among the bookies. Janusz, do you applaud QPR? They had to make a decision now?
Well, it's not a shock to me. I mean, you can disagree with it if you like, but if you're going to do it, now is the time to do it. I mean, look what's happened to Sunderland in some way. Martin O'Neill, they didn't have to make that move, I suppose, but you know, instant bounce, and Premier League money is very, very important. And if the chairman felt that he wasn't going to get it done, quite outspoken, of course, then maybe this is the time to do it. I think QPR are a big club. They have big plans. At least that's what they're telling us. And I just wonder if he was truly the man with the way he plays and the way he thinks, a little bit of old school, as you've been saying and we've been talking about. So no, I'm not shocked at all.
Let's throw it out to our intrepid reporter. Gab, have you been sniffing the trail as to who might take over?
Well, the rumor over here is as you mentioned, is Mark Hughes. And, you know, Mark Hughes means Kia Jarapshin, of course. And you can maybe see the thinking there a little bit with the owner, Fernandez. You know, he's certainly not lacking for money. And, you know, maybe with Hughes in charge and Jarapshin pulling some strings, he can get maybe some of the big names that he covets.
If QPR can get past MK Dons in their FA Cup replay, they will go on to face Chelsea in the next round. Speaking of Chelsea, Gab, all this talk about Frank Lampard perhaps moving on, the link with Paris Saint-Germain, what's the reality?
Well, the reality is, as I understand it, is Carlo Ancelotti has certainly not made signing Frank Lampard a priority at all. I think this is emanating perhaps more from the Chelsea end, the thinking being Lampard makes a lot of money, he's got 18 months left on his contract. You know, he's not an automatic choice necessarily for Andre Villas-Boas. If he wanted to go and try something different elsewhere, I don't know that Chelsea would stand in his way.
Who needs Frank Lampard when you've got Juan Ramirez? He seems to be scoring at a very healthy and productive rate at the moment, a career best. If you look at this tweet, can we please remind Robbie Mustoe, he said if Ramirez scores more than 7 goals this season, I will tell you, Robbie, he now has 8. He'll apologise for criticising him. The floor is yours.
7
yes,
goals?
He's up to 8.
Sure. Yeah, but I'm sure I'd have asked for more than that. I was thinking of the Frank Lampard type of numbers. But I get it. Listen, he's doing very well. He's playing in a slightly more advanced position, and he has got some opportunities to score. In this particular game, he took his chances very well, and fair play to him. I think if you want to see the best out of this player, then he has to get his goals. You know, I think, you know, we know he's got this great energy. We know he can, you know, cover the ground tremendously well. There's no point unless he finishes. I talked about him practicing his finishing on Twitter as well. He might get 20 goals, and maybe he's listening to me.
Oh, is that right? Maybe he's been practicing. You see, someone on this panel is always claiming credit for something good that's going on around the world. Thank you for watching again. Goodbye.